Okay, we're live and welcome everyone who's joined us today. It is really great to have the University of Georgia join us for a second time. I remember in the first edition of this, they were one of the very supportive school to have agreed to join us today, and it's quite exciting to see the result of that right in the picture. We can see all the folks that we're seeing right here are members of the city of Lane, and that is exciting and refreshing, not just for the Terry School of Business, but also for the city of Lane. And today we have the pleasure and the honor to have them once again speak to you. Many of the points that Kara, coincidentally, was the one who represented Terry last year. Many of the points that Kara shared went into help a number of us get into different MBA programs. So I'm encouraging every single one listening today to tune in, listen very carefully, because what you do really need to nail the application is right in this session. So without any further ado, I'll call on Kara to introduce herself, and Benga, we will hand it over to you, and then you can, take it on.
Yes, thank you. We are excited to be here. We did this presentation last year, and it was City of Lane was not a known entity for us, but we saw some amazing results and some amazing candidates come out of this program, and I'm excited to see what's to come here. Already, we're just about a month into the application cycle this year, and I'm already seeing a lot of African candidates, and they're all fantastic. And so I'm really proud, and I appreciate the time that you all are taking to meet with us, join us, learn about our program, learn about the MBA process, and really put yourself out there. And so we're extremely excited. And yes, of course, these beautiful people on your screen right now are our City of Lane members that joined this year's class. So I see a few of them here on this call today. Right now, I think some of them are wearing their Lane hats, but perhaps by the end of the call, they can put their Georgia hats on before they head off to maybe the football game. And they can share a little bit more about the brief time that they've had here in our program. So before I dive into today's topic on how to nail a strong MBA application, I'll share a little bit about myself, and I'll let Benga take over and introduce himself here shortly. So I'm Kara Sonye. I'm Associate Director of Admissions for the full-time MBA program here at the University of Georgia, Terry College of Business. I have been working for the program since 2012 and looking forward to enrolling my 11th class of MBAs this coming fall. I attended the University of Georgia actually for my undergraduate studies, and then received my master's in HR and organizational development here in 2016. So I've actually lived in Athens, in the Athens area where we're located since about 1999. And prior to moving to Athens, I actually lived in Lagos for 3 years and attended an American international school. So my understanding from friends and Google Maps is that Lagos is quite unrecognizable in comparison to the 90s. So I'm looking forward to a day when I can return for a visit and see the change and growth. And as I mentioned before, Lane has been a great partner for us. After last year's presentation with Lane, I think our African candidate pool or application volume increased by about 300%. So of African candidates specifically. So it was actually really incredible. And I am super excited to see how this partnership continues to develop. And I'm actually banking on all of you to help me get back to Africa for in-person recruiting soon. So keep applying to our program. All right, so Benga, would you mind introducing yourself?
Okay, Benga, you're mute.
Yes, I needed a your permission to unmute me, but
Okay.
can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, my name is Benga Enoch, and I'm a second year MBA, focusing on strategy and analytics and HR actually. And I spent my summer with Microsoft as an HR consultant. Great experience, learned a lot of things, opportunity to take things from class and to see theory in practice. So it was a great time, and also it gave me an opportunity to network deeply. So grateful for that experience, and grateful to be back here again to facilitate with Kara, and excited to be a resource, answer your questions, and take it on from there. It's nice to be back again.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so today I'm here to share some thoughts as an admissions committee member on how to best prepare and plan for the admissions process and the MBA experience. So my goal is twofold. I want to share information about our program, help you tell your story through your application. I know what admissions committees expect to see from candidates and want to learn from your application. So I hope that the information I share today will help you position yourselves as strong candidates for any program, though I certainly hope you'll apply to ours. How to tell your own story is probably the most important piece of the application process. So I'm hoping that we have plenty of time to answer your questions at the end of the presentation. But first, I will say everyone who's in attendance today will have an application fee waiver if you choose to apply. All right, so brief information about our program, because a lot of this stuff is online, a lot of it might be available already to you or you've researched it. So our full-time MBA program is located at our main campus in Athens, Georgia, which is approximately an hour northeast of Atlanta. So what I think is that we have the best of both worlds, a small college town with lower cost of living and less traffic, well, except for game days. There's quite a bit of traffic on football game days in Athens, but we're also really close to one of the nation's largest business hubs. So that makes the recruiting process, the networking process with some of the nation's largest corporations really easy. And while we are a smaller town, we have over 300 local nonprofits and a very thriving startup community. UGA also generates $6.5 billion of annual impact on the Georgia's economy. And as a student in our program, you'll be joining over 335,000 UGA alumni, including Terry College's 70,000, spread out in 80 countries all over the world. And for the past 5 years, our full-time MBA has been very consistently ranked as a top 40 program overall. However, affordability and return on investment continue to be some of our highest rankings. We're where we are as a program because of the success of our students and because faculty and staff are dedicated to our students' academic and professional success. And that hard work is actually reflected in the rankings and the fact that even with COVID as a disruptor, our 2020 graduates were more than 92% employed after graduation. So in a time where there was a lot of uncertainty, our students were still able to be extremely successful. So before you can tell your story, and you have to know what you want to get out of an MBA program from the degree. So to help you think about that, let me share a little bit of information on our program, because I think these are some of the things that you need to look for in order to have the best experience and the best outcome possible. So as you start researching programs, you will very quickly learn that every program has a story to tell. And at UGA, our story centers around three things: providing each student with individualized support, providing the right learning opportunities inside and outside the classroom, and helping you get the best return on your investment in yourself. So your classes are taught by world-class faculty and industry practitioners. MBA staff are dedicated to helping you succeed. We partner you with alumni mentors who will be there to guide you and give you any insight they have on their industry and their maybe even in their companies. And half of the courses you take will be electives chosen to align with your career goals. So starting in your second semester, you can focus on the projects and the co-curricular opportunities that prepare you for your summer internship and that you can leverage in the full-time job search to demonstrate how you can contribute to an organization. So how do we do that? How do we support our international students whose needs are slightly different and challenges tend to be greater? We understand that international students need time to understand how the US job market works, build a network in the US, and target companies that sponsor. Our personalized approach is centered around the student experience and the support we provide each individual academically, socially, and professionally so that you can get the most out of your time in the program. We focus on outcomes from admissions to employment. We are very fortunate to be able to offer very generous merit aid. And in addition to other scholarships, 100% of our international students have graduate assistantships with full tuition waivers and work stipends. Career coaches provide personalized career advising that prepares you for networking with alumni and recruiters, for interviews. They'll help you navigate the US job market. Our average salary has increased year over year, which means you can recoup your investment faster. We connect you with the right alumni at the right time so that you can build your network, be mentored by alumni working in your area of interest, and build the relationships that will support you while you are in the program and after you graduate. Academically, our flexible curriculum and experiential learning opportunities allow you to gain exposure, which is a big thing, that positions you competitively in the job search. And ultimately help you land the right internship and full-time job offer. Lastly, we have a proposal underway, and I imagine I'm going to have a lot of questions about that. A proposal underway to make our MBA business analytics concentration STEM designated. But until then, we are offering an opportunity for international students to pursue both the MBA and our MSBA, our MS in Business Analytics, through our MBA, MSBA STEM track, so that you can complete the MBA and the MSBA in 2 years, really taking a deep dive into analytics and making you eligible for 3 years of work authorization in the US. So that's 2 years, 2 degrees, and the same funding opportunities as our 2-year MBA students. So you can find that through our application, create an application through the full-time MBA program, and then there will be an option to select, the standard 2-year MBA, variety of dual degree options, but then you'll also find our MBA, MSBA STEM track. So you apply with this one application and you're considered for both programs. Essentially, the first year with the MBA is our MBA core curriculum. And then our MSBA program is typically a 1-year program anyway. So imagine that like your focus, your concentration, but you're coming away with 2 different degrees. All right, so I don't think I need to harp on the importance of ROI with this group, but obviously the time, commitment, and money spent towards a full-time MBA is quite an investment. And it's really essential for you to evaluate the potential return on that investment to determine if and when an MBA makes sense for you. So as a public institution, we, with extremely generous donors, I'll say, we're able to capitalize on low tuition rates, low cost of living, and significant merit aids. As I mentioned previously, 100% of our international students receive graduate assistantships, which come with full tuition waivers. In addition to our assistantship awards, our average scholarship funding on top of that is over $8,000 per academic year. And so, like I mentioned, with that STEM, the MBA, MSBA STEM track, you are eligible for all of these same awards through the application process. And even with an international pandemic and a lot of uncertainty, like I mentioned earlier, 92% of last year's graduating class accepted offers within 6 months of graduation, with an average salary and bonus over $133,000, which was approximately 189% increase over their pre-MBA salaries. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'd say that's a pretty good return on investment. We're also consistently ranked high for having one of the lowest salary to debt ratios among US schools. And in case you're curious, I've also broken down the job functions of those accepted job offers too. Of course, that is just kind of generalization, but you get an idea from there. And here is just a sampling of some of the companies our students have gone to work for after the MBA, but of course, no means an all-inclusive list. The Career Center will be there to support you through the entire process. They'll partner with you to understand your strengths and goals and make sure you're connecting with the right people at the right time. Okay, so now I'm going back to the big picture to talk about nailing your MBA application. These next 3 slides could actually be discussed really in any order because they are all just pieces of a whole: school selection, school research, and application planning. Looking at rankings and looking at school websites, those are an important piece of school selection. I think that's where most people start. There is a lot of information out there and it can be pretty overwhelming. So start by making a list of your must-haves and your nice-to-haves and keep track of what you like about each program. What factors matter to you? I know that I've heard from several current students, they all have different priorities in how they ranked, they made their own personal rankings on schools. And so keep that in mind, keep that at the forefront, and that'll help you kind of narrow things down. Location, cost, class size, course offerings, employer partners, reputation or rankings, etc. Choose a broad range of schools to apply to, cast a very wide net, and identify your reach, your target, and your backup schools, and be realistic in those choices. Don't only apply to those top 10 M7 schools for their reputation, to schools where you know you will thrive. So just because these schools have high rankings, just because their reputation is great, doesn't mean that you are a good fit for you, and or that it's a good fit for you, and that it's going to be a great option for you. So definitely think through all the different opportunities. Also start thinking about financing very early. Schools can be very generous, but no program is free. So know what you can afford to spend while you stop working for 2 years. But I'll come back to the apply early and trusting the process here on another slide. So let's talk a little bit more about how to do the research. You have to be intentional about your approach to the process. Learn more about programs from websites. Talk to current students. I know everyone in the Lane community talks to each other. You've got great communication going, so keep up with that. Do informational interviews with alums in your network or with people who are in the role that you might want to have post MBA. I think also, even though current students are busy, they might also be a great group of people to do informational interviews with. Practice those informational interview skills when you're talking to them about their program and learning from them. This will kind of help you clarify your short and long-term goals. So start drafting those goal statements, and you're going to have to do it very early. You'll have to refine them multiple times, get other people to look over them, to kind of think through how you're presenting yourself. But students and alums might ask you about your goals. So be prepared to talk about that, what you want to do post-MBA. I think having a clear idea of your post-MBA path will help you identify the programs that will be the best fit for you pretty quickly. All right, so this slide really pertains to the whole process. Submitting successful applications is largely about planning and preparation. So when it comes to the actual application, give yourself plenty of time to work through each element. Pay attention to the questions that are being asked in each specific application. You're in control of this process until you hit the submit button. So use each element strategically to share new information about yourself, emphasizing strengths and accomplishments. Do the best that you can on the GMAT or GRE by taking ample time to prepare. A lot of schools, and this is what we talked about last year, a lot of schools are offering test waivers. So if you're eligible for a test waiver, think about whether or not a strong test score would help you compensate for any other weaknesses in your application, like a low academic GPA, or poor grades in some of the classes, or maybe a lack of quantitative coursework. Consider taking an online math for managers course with UCLA Berkeley or HBX or MBA math, and get an A. Work really hard at those. Those are the things that you can do to show quantitative skills where maybe you didn't have that in your academic or professional background. Use the essays to tell your story. Share information they won't know from somewhere else in your application. I think I see a lot of times where people basically restate their resumes through their essays, which doesn't give you an opportunity. You're not taking advantage of every opportunity to share who you are and what you're looking to do. But most importantly, take the time to revise your resume to fit the format that they expect, and use it to describe your accomplishments and how you have impacted your organizations and communities. Each element tells a piece of your story, and it is just one piece of the application. Each time we're looking at different pieces, we're gathering a holistic view of who that person is and what they're capable of and what they're hoping to accomplish. And it gives us a better idea of how they might fit into our program, what kind of impact will they leave here, as a legacy to our program as well. But yeah, most admissions committees are doing a holistic review. So it really is every single piece to that puzzle that you should be looking at. All right, and if it isn't clear already, the best way to get through the application process is to keep focus on you. You're only competing with yourself. Your job is to show what makes you distinctly you. So don't try to be someone else or what you think they want you to be. And most importantly, stay off the web forums as much as possible. Everything else is just noise and will cause you a lot of stress and take your energy away from the process. Applying to business school is not a transactional process. It is a reflective process. So use that time to really think about what you've done, why you have done it, and how it prepares you for what you want to do in the future. If you don't already know yourself, you can't expect any admissions committee to figure it out for you. Through each interaction that you have with programs and through your application, you really need to make a compelling case for why each program is the best place for you to succeed and how you will contribute to those programs. You have to be authentic for sure. Envision yourself in each program and really think about what they offer that you are excited to do. Also, make sure your goals are reasonable and achievable. build off the skills and experience you already have, and know how they connect to your larger purpose. Why you are who you are, and why you want to do what you want to do. And this slide is specifically about the interview itself. So, or should I say, it's not as specifically about the interview itself, but it really applies to the whole process. So you can never over prepare, and you can never overdress. So to succeed, to find the best program for you, you have to put your best effort into researching programs, completing applications, and how you show up at interviews. So once you submit, like we said already, it is out of your control until the interview. So you have to trust that you have done your best and that the admissions committee is doing the most they can with your application. The interview is your next opportunity to make a good impression. So don't expect to wing it and be successful. Make sure you're preparing and practicing your responses. Research how they interview and dress for the job that you want post MBA. But be yourself, be your best self. I hope by now you kind of have a good idea of why all this matters. I hope that you understand that the application is not just a form. It's part of the whole journey, and every bit of work that you put into preparing for the MBA and the application process is just kind of the foundation of your success from there on throughout the MBA and thereafter. There are no shortcuts. You know, you have to get from point A to point B, and you have to get there on your own merit. So you have to be able to toot your own horn, I can say. I have rarely seen a rushed application have a positive outcome. So be thorough and be thoughtful with every application that you submit. All right, so one of the keys to successful application is planning. And so I always recommend that you pick a deadline and work backwards to determine how long it will take you to pull everything together. I don't really care when you apply, though it would be helpful if you applied in round 1 or round 2, because you know it gives you more time to plan. But you do want to make sure that you look at the application holistically, because that's how we evaluate it. So you have a lot of control over what goes into the application before you submit. So make sure each piece is as strong as possible, and that you have used each piece strategically to emphasize your strengths, abilities, accomplishments, and also to explain or compensate for any perceived weaknesses. There are a lot of resources out there on the internet, and you can always reach out to our office with questions. These deadlines, I've only included our first 3 deadlines because the March 1 would be the final application deadline for international applicants. But if you can, round 1 or round 2 would definitely be preferred. And in some ways, this slide kind of brings us back to the beginning of doing your research. I hope that you take the time to learn more about our program. I think year over year, I have seen how an MBA creates opportunities for students that they would not have had otherwise. Changes that impact their lives and their families' lives. And every career is a business career, so decide how you want to make a positive impact through your MBA. You can learn more about our program and other MBA programs through their social media channels. A lot of times that is where the student experience is best presented. And so we're out there on social media as best as possible. We do like to share the student experience there. And so definitely check us out. But if you want to connect with us in other ways, definitely reach out to us directly via email, phone. We also host our own virtual campus visit day. So I'm hoping maybe some of you have already been to some, but definitely would invite you to come. It's a great way to speak with current students and really get a good feel for what our program has to offer. All right, so thank you for your attention up until now. I do want to hopefully have at least 20 minutes to answer any questions.
Right.
Sam, I'll let you start.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the succinct presentation. I haven't been, seen this or even seen you come on this event last year. I'm quite appreciative that a number of Africans are now in the program, and we can only continue to push that number higher because we do think that the value that and the different kind of perspectives we bring allows any MBA program to have a very global perspectives on many issues. I will open the floor up now. Can anyone still hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Awesome. So there's the very first question someone asked me here is, and I'm thinking, this question is, what is the ideal candidate for the Terry College of Business? And that question is thrown to Benga first of all, and then we'll circle back to Kara. Can Bingo mute himself?
Great, thanks. Could you allow me to just unmute anytime I want without needing permission? Yeah, I seem to have a hard time. Yeah. Okay. The question is, what's the ideal candidate for the MBA
Yes.
program at Terry? Okay.
Yes.
I think Kara mentioned it, and I'll just reiterate that, which is the fact that just be authentic, just be yourself, right? And she also mentioned that the process of application is a reflective process, right? So one thing I believe the admissions committee is looking out for is, yes, someone who is authentic, who has a genuine story, and someone who has a strong sense of direction. Kara also mentioned that you need to have reflected to a point where you know what your background, what skills that your background has helped you to develop, and the long-term goal, what you want to achieve, and then be able to justify how the MBA program is going to help you to achieve that. So you need to have those facts at the tip of your finger. So an ideal candidate is actually that candidate that is really authentic, has a genuine story, has a strong sense of direction. And one more thing I would say is also, is that candidate, we should be able to see that you're going to be a contribution to the community. So it's not enough to just be conscious of what you're going to get from the program, but we also want to see what you're going to contribute. So the ideal candidate is someone who is bringing something to the table as well. So it's a mutual thing. I hope that helps.
No, beautifully said. I think that's a great way to put it. Kara, do you have anything to chime in?
I think interestingly enough, we attract a lot of people that are very entrepreneurial, mindset, background. And I think that's because we offer so much flexibility with our program that people are really able to customize and develop themselves in a way that really helps them fill out their skill set gaps while they're in the program. And because we're a smaller program and there's so much customization available to them, I think we tend to get students who are really wanting to jump in and trying to find a way to not only develop themselves, but also develop the program, to kind of find opportunities to put us further along in the MBA industry. And I think that's probably why we have seen so much success. People are willing to really work hard for what they get out of this program.
Right. Thank you very much for that. And before I go to the chat section to read some of the questions we have there, I'd like to open the floor up to anyone who would like to ask a question in person. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can now unmute yourself and shoot your question.
Samuel, so we would have to unmute people. So I would say that, so I actually changed the settings. So you can just raise your hand, then I would just unmute you.
Awesome, that works as well. So if you'd like to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand. In the meantime, we'll go to some of the questions we have in the chat section. To Igwe, the question you're asking is, well, yes, you can apply with arts and humanity background to any MBA program. I would just carry that something specific you want to tell the candidates from arts and humanity background, as you've seen based on the number of applications you've received?
The thing with the MSBA program, I would say it does require a little bit higher level of quantitative skills. And so if you can show in your application your quantitative strengths through, maybe that's your undergraduate background, maybe you have, whenever you're listing stuff on your resume, that you are sticking to very quantitative details to show that you've gotten that experience. I think that's helpful. I mean, you get a lot of the base knowledge through some of your MBA core classes, but they'll also have you go through several boot camps over the summer prior to starting the MSBA courses. So I think most people are ready for it, but that does typically something that we keep in mind a little bit. And so even with humanities backgrounds, people who have non-business backgrounds, that doesn't mean that you don't have those quantitative skills. So figure out a way to display them. Maybe, like I mentioned, take an MBA math course or something else to present to the admissions committee to help support that.
Thank you very much, Kara. And to everyone, please don't be shy. Feel free to raise your hand up and ask your question in person. One of the things you're missing out by not doing that is you're not giving yourself visibility, because now you can say, hey, Kara, remember that one person who asked the question? I was that person. And it shows that you're interested in the program and you really want to be there. So that's a cue for anyone who wants to take that chance. To the next question, Binga, this is for you. People would like to hear your story.
Samuel, sorry, I have someone's hand raised. So I asked the next question, but I think we should go live first with this person.
Okay, all right. Msa, your hand. Feel free to mute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. It was really an informative session. And one thing that caught my attention was the opportunity to get the graduate assistantship. So I would like to inquire, what tips would you have for me to key into that portfolio? Thank you.
So for our graduate assistantships, basically, if I could really simplify it and break it down, if you are qualified to be in our program, you are qualified to get an assistantship. So really focus in on presenting a strong application. So, think about your career goals, all the things that I mentioned before. In terms of merit aid, I think scholarships is where it's a little bit more focused in on the numbers, like maybe test scores and academic performance, but graduate assistantships are awarded a little bit differently just because, one, we have the flexibility to be able to give all of our international students graduate assistantships, but also because having a great test score doesn't necessarily make you a good graduate assistant. So those kind of things, I would just focus in on the application and presenting yourself as best as possible. And then assume that as an international student, you would get a graduate assistantship at our university. That's how we award them. But with each MBA program, you'll have to look at that a little bit more specifically. So like Benga is a graduate assistant. He actually works for our office. Zana is as well. She works for our office. And so hopefully they're enjoying their roles.
All right, thank you very much, Kara. And maybe after this question from Telma, we'll speak to Benga about his internship experience as well as his graduate assistantship experience to kind of give people a picture of what it would look like. Telma, over to you.
Thank you for this question. So I just want to confirm that the test course, for someone who is planning to revise, can you please submit an application pending when you revise and have a more competitive test score?
Okay, Kara, did you get the question?
I think I missed some of it. Could you repeat it for me?
Okay, I think what Telma is asking is, can you submit an application pending the time where you get your test score or a better test score? And what happens to such an application while you get an updated test score?
Sure. So I would always be very clear to the admissions committee that you plan on retaking an exam if you plan to submit prior to taking that exam again. So with our application, you can enter in just a test date. So you can enter in the future test date that you plan on taking it, in addition to your existing scores. And so having a future test date then tells us, okay, if test score is the only thing that makes us concerned about this applicant, we'll hold off and wait until we receive that other test score. But, I think too, I would just consider waiting to apply when you feel like you have your absolute best application. Because like I said, with our program, we're going to consider people for merit aid in any round. And so you have until, I think that third round deadline is March 1. So I'd say if you truly believe that you can retake and drastically improve your test scores, then I would probably just wait and apply when you have your best application.
Awesome, thank you. We'll still keep it open for more questions. I've got someone, and then just before you, someone just posted a question that I think is quite interesting. The person said, and I quote, "I've been refraining from applying to MBA programs because of my age. What would the Terry College of Business consider too old to apply to the MBA program?"
Okay. Well, I don't know if I have an exact age. I think the important thing is that you're able to gain knowledge and experience from the students that are in the program with you. So if they have nothing to offer you, if you've already got a considerable career behind you, consider whether a full-time MBA program with younger students is the right fit for you. I know that a lot of times people, as an international student, executive programs don't always work because typically executive MBA programs require you to be employed full-time. However, I think there probably are some out there. Of course, I can't give you any examples, but that would be one that I would think of first if you are further along in your career and you might be better suited to have classmates that are at a similar level as you are in your career. Other than that, I would say maybe look at specialized master's programs. If you've already got a strong career in leadership behind you, what can you gain academically from an MBA? Maybe you consider doing a specialized master's so you can pivot in a different direction in your career. But I don't necessarily think we have an age limit. Benga's an old man. He's my age, right? And then we have people who are, in the U.S. military. So sometimes they come through the advanced schooling programs through the military branches, and they tend to be a little bit older too and have more leadership experience. So that's why I'd say we don't really have an age limit, but we will be asking that question: what can you gain from this program?
Awesome. Thank you very much. And then over to you.
Thank you, Sam. Hi, Kara. Hi, Binga. Thank you for being here. So I'm currently a project manager, right, for a tech company, and I'm interested in pivoting to product management for an MBA. And I wanted to ask Binga how the recruitment process was like for him, and how hands-on is career management services for, especially, in helping international students get an internship placement. Yeah, especially those who are pivoting as well. Thank you.
Sure. Kara, can I go? Okay, cool. Yeah, so my experience, where do I start? Okay, so you're pivoting from project management to product management, and you want to understand how the career management is there to help you make that transition. Is that correct?
Exactly, yes. And how the experience—
Is that a question?
Your experience was, yes. So how,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So my experience with recruiting, I guess, started from the National Black. We call it the Super Bowl for the recruiting events, right? That's that huge event that the CMC strongly encourages every student to participate in. So that was where my journey started from. And so I saw the postings, Microsoft postings, and unfortunately, due to COVID, it was remote. All the recruiting, process, even the internship was remote, right? So saw the posting and I applied. And after some time, I can't remember how long, I got a call for a first stage interview. And at that point, I had to reach out to CMC to say, hey, this opportunity is coming up. And so what CMC did was set up some mock interviews for me. So I did that. And then CMC also tried to connect me with one or two people that had gone through Microsoft for internship, so that I could also get an insider's perspective. And that's one of the things that CMC is very good at. More than likely, when there's an opportunity, there's someone who is working in that company, who is an alum, or someone that knows someone. So CMC is very intentional about helping you create that network. So that helped me. And so did the mock interviews and made it to the final round, then reached out to CMC again to say, hey, I'm at the final stage. And so CMC rotated me. So I interviewed with someone else in the CMC to get a different perspective and feedback. So I did that, and yeah, that was pretty much it. And one thing that CMC also did for me, I believe they still do it, is over time, they gather questions that companies usually ask for certain roles. So that database of questions also helped, prep me. So that was a process that I went through to get my offer with Microsoft. And as far as, yeah, I guess I answered the question, how CMC helps. And one more piece is, I also believe CMC has an additional coaching for international students, right? Helping them to kind of narrow down to companies they should be thinking about who are more intentional about sponsoring. So CMC, provides all that support.
Winga, thank you very much for answering that question. You kept saying CMC. Do you mind telling us what that is in for?
Sorry about that. That's the Career Management Center.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
So that's awesome. It's interesting to listen to your journey there. Someone has asked, and I think Kara has answered this question in some way, but I'm just going to ask for the sake of if there's other perspectives to add to that. This person has an economics degree with 3 years technical experience in deep tech. What is my chance of pivoting into STEM MSc or the Business Analytics Master's?
Benga, did you write that question?
No.
Sorry?
I feel like this thing. I said, did you write that question? I think that was from you.
No,
Sounds like your background.
This is from someone else.
I'm just joking. Yeah, so I think, in terms of, I think it was for the MBA, MSBA STEM designation. Is that what the question was about?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, we're open to it. Essentially, like I said before, we're considering it the same as our 2-year program, but kind of just a specialization. So if I could point the question at Hosanna, because she kind of is thinking about this path, and maybe you can share with us how it has been a little bit different in preparing for the MSBA side. I know you're still about a semester away, but.
Yeah, thank you, Kara. Yeah, so the thing about the MBA and the MSBA track is if you're deciding to take on that track, you get to do a concentration in the MBA track or 2 as you wish. Then you get to do the business analytics concentration in the MSBA program. Why is a quantitative-based program? I think you already have a good profile because you have like an engineering background. I don't think math would be a challenge for you. But even if you don't have like an engineering background, like I had my undergrad in biochemistry, it was pretty scary for me initially. But when I spoke to our student engagement manager, Jake, he was like, Terry gives resources to help you prepare ahead. So before you end, by the end of the first year MBA program, we're going to have a summer boot camp that's going to prepare you for the concentrations for the MBA program if you don't have like a strong quantitative background. So you could take those courses during your internship remotely and brush up on any core things you need to do. And besides, in the MBA program, during the spring semester, you're going to take a statistics course, and that will help you have like the ground base to kick off the program in the MSBA program. The MSA program curriculum basically ranges for core things in analytics, which is a critical area in what every business is right now. Things like SQL, business intelligence, and then visualizations, database, analytics, predictive, and those things. So you could just pick courses across analytics pathway and combine with some courses from the MBA concentration. So it's not something that you can do. You can do it. You're not moving alone. You have other classmates who also have non-traditional background, who have been out of school for like 8 years, 10 years, that are also going through this path like myself. So for me, currently, I'm taking like an analytics course right now. Yeah. And I wouldn't say like, it's been the best of best, but I have supportive team members and the professors they understand that some of us is our first time knowing what they call scripts or knowing what they call database. So it's once upon a time, you'll be fine.
Right. Thank you very much, Hosanna, for that response. And to everyone who's missed the link, the Terry College of Business has committed to giving application fee waiver to those who are interested in applying on this event. It's an amazing opportunity that I think has been instrumental to the journey of many people. For many people who are from Nigeria, from Africa, we know that there's a big gap between the exchange rate of the US dollar and whatever African currency of your country is. Now, I will tell you my own experience because I think people keep making this mistake every single year. Now, because you've not heard of the Terry College of Business, does not mean it's not a great school. That's one big blunder many people make. Because you've not heard of it, you think it's not great. It's just because your world is not yet as big as it can be. There are many companies that Benga and Hosanna are here. I'm also in the MBA program. There are many big recruiting companies that we have never heard of in Nigeria. Our economy is quite small, I'm sorry to say, but that's the fact. And because you've not heard of the companies, you fail to apply, not realizing that it will give you even far more better opportunity than you will get in Microsoft, Google, or whatever companies you've heard. That's one thing I want to say. Don't make that mistake and wait an extra 2 years before you get into an MBA program, because you do not understand the value. And that's why we organize events like this, to bring you more closely in touch with schools so that you understand the value that you have to offer. Don't waste 2 years just because you can't see what we now see from the mistakes we made. Benga, you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that, Sam. You know what I realized during my internship? The folks that we worked together came from those top business schools that probably the average person knows about. And so in my mind, I'm like, so what? You see what I'm saying? So the Harvard I was trying to go to, or whatever, I wasn't trying to go to Harvard. I'm just giving an example. So we all converge at the same place. You understand? The same experience, the same pay, and all that. So and I know one or two of them that had to take loans to go to those top schools. So it's just to help you put things into perspective. There's hardly any employer that goes to those schools that doesn't also either come to Terry or that employ from Terry. So it's, the ranking of the school is good, but your networking skills and all that also come to play. So just put things in perspective.
No, that's a very good point. And I want to also share some historical facts. Nigeria is, I'm saying Nigeria because I'm Nigerian. I know there are other people from Ghana and other countries on the call, but let me speak to what I know. Nigeria is just a little over 60 years. And what that means is the leaders that we know, or the people we know, made many of the schools that we think are the great schools today known, because they went to those schools. We can read through the history, we can read through their profile. And just because of that, that has shaped our context around what best is. And because Nigeria is just smaller than the state of Texas, we can't even relate to the concept of regional powerhouse and how many recruiters don't care what your school looks like on the global level. So long regionally, it's a great school, they're able to recruit you. Those are some of the things that nobody told me. So I wasted 1 year with the old mindset of thinking, if I've not heard of you, then you cannot be great. That is misleading. And I'm saying that because I see certain tendencies for people to come in, year out, miss the opportunity they should have taken 2 years ago, and coming back to that same opportunity. I missed that chance as well. I regret it, but I'm just saying it so that people don't make that same mistake today. And to your point, Benga, loans are good. You know, the economy is different for different people, but your risk appetite is what you should consider. Can you be thinking of paying back $40,000? Yes, it's possible, but look at what is good for you and don't let other people's narrative dictate what you want to do. On that note, Kara, I want to thank you very much. It's 5 minutes, there are 2 more questions here. I don't know if it's okay to ask them before we cover this and call it a day today.
Yeah, please.
Awesome. Thank you very much. For everyone who's asking career specific questions, individual specific questions in terms of, I'm from this background, can I do this? I'll encourage you to reach out to Kara or Benga or anyone in the community, Hosanna, Franklin, Ebun, and the other person's name is skipping my mind right now. Reach out to these people and ask those questions. The other question I caught in the chat is this: does the Terry College of Business give test waiver for GMAT or GRE, and how does that affect their chances to get into the program and also get funded?
Yeah, so you can request a test waiver. So you would have to submit your application, and we did change this process from last year a bit because I think it's actually better for you as an applicant for us to see the entire application in order to make that evaluation on the test waiver, because I think we're able to offer more test waivers based on having more knowledge of a candidate. The expectation is you have at least 3 years of full-time work experience post-bachelor's degree. So that is a bare minimum requirement. And then in addition to that, you have to meet a few other criteria, at least one other criteria, which are primarily around quantitative background, quantitative, being academically sound in quantitative courses, having quantitative skills from your job, what you're doing. Maybe if you have a master's degree already, that is another thing that you can use. And I think there's a couple of other ones, but those are all within the application. So definitely go there and kind of consider that. In terms of merit aid, if you qualify for a test waiver, then it's not going to impact you in terms of merit aid. We have other ways to evaluate your quantitative skills and your merit than just test scores. So that's the reason we're offering test waivers, is because we are able to evaluate candidates without them.
Thank you very much, Kara. And just to point out that not a lot of schools offer that opportunity to be able to even put you forth for a merit-based scholarship without a test score. So know that that's something also unique to the Terry College of Business for those looking to take hold of the opportunity. To the last question, and for the last time, I'm going to post the link to just registering or indicating that you attend this event. If you're not on this event, unfortunately, even if you're a member of the City of Lynn, you cannot get an application fee waiver. You have to be here to be able to qualify for that. So I'll put that in for the last time, and I'm monitoring the names as well. So please just make sure that you don't erase someone else's name. Just come down lower and leave us to sort out the spaces in between. The last question is around interviews. Okay, Binger.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the waiver thing. It ties back also to your goals. So if you want to work for the MBBs, for example, or some of these top consulting firms, they require you to have not only GMAT, but certain scores in GMAT, right? And so I know someone that just because he had that waiver, he couldn't move on in the process. So you want to do your research well and make sure that the companies you target, especially consulting, not all consulting firms, but like McKinsey, for example, we had someone come talk to us in the consulting club, and it was like, it's GMAT, right? And certain scores in GMAT. So you want to make sure you factor that in before you, request for a waiver, even if you qualify for that.
Now
and I just want, sorry,
ahead.
can I say one more thing? I also wanted to add to the piece of recommendation. I know Kara talked about it, but just want to reiterate it one more time. Your recommender matters a lot, right? And we encourage to coach them not to write the thing for self. You might be shooting yourself from the foot, because Kara and like admissions committee, they have years of experience, so they can tell. There's a way psychologically they can tell, that hey, this is the same applicant writing this. So you want to be mindful. But the point is, who writes your recommendation and how it's written also matters, and lends a lot of weight to how the outcome perceives you.
Kara, do you want to add something there?
Yes, I think it matters less about a person's title and how well they know you and what you're capable of. Because if they know you well and they know what you're capable of, they're going to write a better recommendation. If you pick the CEO of a company that hasn't seen you since the Christmas party, they're not going to be able to write a good recommendation for you. And so,
Right.
you know, I think that's important, and definitely, even if they are somebody who's maybe your direct supervisor, former supervisor, I think that would be a better fit over somebody higher up in the company who might not work with you on a daily basis.
Yeah. And at Lane, we encourage people to take the GRE and the GMAT. The educational system in the US, or North America generally, is quite different from what we do in Nigeria. We follow the British curriculum, which to an extent does not test certain things as well as the North American schools do. So taking the GMAT GRE prepares you mentally for the quantitative rigor, not just the quantitative rigor, but the qualitative rigor. As you'd be reading cases, you need to be able to assimilate it before you can write a memo. You need to be able to do simple math for you to pass certain quantitative-based exams, such as accounting. So we encourage people to take the test, not for the sake of the score, but for the sake of the relearning and training process that prepares you to maximize your academic potential in an MBA school. To the last question, and Kara, you already started to touch on some of this when you talked about the interview session. Dress as if you're already an MBA student, dress as if you're going for a real job interview. What are some of the common mistakes that you've seen people make in the way they respond to the questions being asked in interviews?
I think being too general in your responses. So if the admissions committee member or the interviewer is asking you a question about an experience that you had in your career, make sure you have a specific example to give in that response. Don't just kind of, well, I think I would do this. So what I would recommend is getting online, researching behavioral interview questions. That might be helpful in kind of guiding you to think about what kind of questions might be asked in the process. And then you can kind of think about specific situations you've been in your career that you could use in multiple scenarios. So I would recommend trying to kind of think specifically about experiences and not generalize in your responses.
Right. And on that note, Kara, I want to say a very big thank you to you and Benga for joining us today. We will just stay back for just internal lane, housekeeping stuff and things like that. But thank you very much for joining us today. We will share the list with you. And we look forward to more success stories from the Terry College of Business. We're rooting for all our members who are now members of the school. And Benga, thank you very much for your time today. A wonderful one.
And
Thank you,
as
everyone.
always, yeah, I am willing to offer some complimentary minutes right after Kara drops off.
Okay.
Any more questions? Happy to answer.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And on that note, I will stop the live stream. And for those who can wait back, please feel free to do so. And Kara, thank you very much and have a wonderful rest of your day.